I don't know how they're going to wrap this whole thing up, or even if they're going to, or this will go into a season 2, or maybe we'll even see Moon Knight into a movie. I hope they do that, but this is one hell of a journey. Hey everyone, what is going on? We're here to talk about Moon Knight. That's right, the all-new Disney Plus Marvel Studios series launching on March 30th. I have seen the first 4 episodes. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I will give you my top-line thoughts, what I liked, what I didn't like about the performances, a little bit about the story, just enough so you have an understanding when you go into it, what to expect, and all that great stuff. So with that, let's talk about Moon Knight. Moon Knight, as a Marvel Comics character, I mean, most of you probably never heard of him. I read Marvel Comics growing up. I didn't even know about Moon Knight. He's not an A-grade character, B-grade character. I would say C to D-grade character. Some people categorize him as a poor man's Batman, but I wouldn't necessarily say that. There are some similarities, I guess you could say, but no, it's very, very different. But I would say this character does remind me a little bit, as it is in the series at least, of Ghost Rider, and in the aspect of, how Johnny Blaze had to sell his soul to the devil, then he turned into Ghost Rider to, complete some tasks that he needed to do. That kind of correlates with Moon Knight in some way. Of course, instead of one person, Johnny Blaze, you have now multiple personalities, as in Stephen Grant and Mark Spector, and them dealing with themselves. Then, of course, then Moon Knight comes into play. So there is a lot of characters in this show. Maybe not a lot of actors, but there's a lot of characters. And the first episode deals a lot with that. It deals a lot with the multiple personality disorder to help the audience understand what Stephen Grant goes through, his trials, his tribulations, living this life. He's secluded. He feels like he's alone, and trying to just navigate the world feeling this way, which is fascinating. And it's a really awesome way that Marvel and Disney has approached this content, because it really is unique, very, very unique. But if you're going into this expecting a superhero series, you may be slightly disappointed, because I did. Looking at the trailers, I thought this was going to be like a superhero series. Of course, we learn about, how he becomes Moon Knight, et cetera, et cetera. At least that's what I thought. And then he goes and he fights the bad guys or the creatures, but it's not necessarily that. It deals with the psychosis of Stephen Grant, Mark Spector, a lot of the time. Then after the first episode, you get a little bit more of that, a little bit aspects of understanding Moon Knight a little bit more. Then it changes directions and going into an adventure show like The Mummy, 1990s, and even the most, the later 2000s version with Tom Cruise. There's elements of that are right there smack in your face. Something maybe like an Indiana Jones in some ways as well. So you have this sort of adventure ride that it takes you on, which is great and it's fun and it's exciting. And it adds a little bit of lightness to the show, because the first episode is quite heavy. It is quite heavy in a lot of ways. And for some of you may be going, do I really want to invest this time in this show? But I would say yes, do so, because it takes you on this journey. And then episode 4 just completely just flips everything, or you think it does. I don't know, because I haven't seen episode 5 yet, but it's one of those moments when you're like, mind blown, what just happened here? And then all the things that you were maybe frustrated about in episodes 1, 2, and 3 made sense in episode 4. And that's where the show gets very interesting, is because it goes on this adventure series, Egyptian mythology, all that great stuff, finding this MacGuffin. And then along the way, things just don't make complete sense. You're kind of going, yeah, I get we're living in this creative license world through Marvel Studios, of course, and it's a Marvel character, and it's a comic book series, but the personalities are so extreme and they're so different. Like, how could anybody live a life like this? How could it make any sense? And the show does address that. It does address that. And that was one of my frustrations. And that's why when I say setting the expectations at the beginning of this video, the top line things I didn't like so much, or what I liked, those are the things I didn't like so much because it didn't make sense to me. But I would say stick with this show, because it does make sense when it comes to episode 4. So keep that in mind, okay? And I get why Disney gave us the episodes to watch in advance, so we can at least let you guys know that there is a journey here. It may not all make sense right now, but it does make sense, or at least tries to make sense of it. But now we got to talk a little bit about the performances in this. Oscar Isaac, if he does not get an Emmy Award for this series, I don't know what's wrong with the Emmys. This is a phenomenal performance. I got to tell you, this could be the best performance we've seen on any Disney Plus series thus far. My mind was blown. My jaw dropped at what he was doing with these characters. I've been a fan of his for quite some time. This brought my fan level up to here. Uneffing believable what you see out of this. Ethan Hawke. Awesome. He plays a sort of an evangelistic character who goes along this journey finding this MacGuffin as well for his own particular reasons. And he also has some ties to Moon Knight, which is interesting. And this kind of, the way they've kind of built this world, this around Moon Knight is fascinating. And it's refreshing because I think we've seen so much related to the previous Marvel films for thus far, and they're all kind of tied in. It is refreshing to see something kind of very different from this. And I can see why both of these actors, who are some of the best actors in cinema, take on roles like this for a limited series, or I wouldn't say limited series, but a series for Disney Plus, is because these are meaty roles for characters, for character development. Any actor who's in this series is going to love having a role in this, because the directors, the writers, they've just knocked it out of the park in that regard. We also got to talk about May Kalamaui in this. Now, she's an Egyptian actress in this, and I believe she's a relatively new actress. She really is a pinnacle character in this. She's not the damsel in distress, but she does remind me a lot of Rachel Weisz's character in The Mummy. She has a lot of those personality traits, in some ways not as comical, but in some aspects she does, but also some of the heroines that we've seen in the Indiana Jones films, she has a lot of that as well. So she's a very big part of the series. Great chemistry with Oscar Isaac. You're going to really enjoy it. And I like how they've implemented her into the show, especially with the various different personalities in Moon Knight. What does she know? What does she not know? How does she deal with these things? It's awesome to watch. And I think that's what I really liked about this series more than anything, was the writing, the attention to detail for these small moments that you capture in this. Because when you're dealing with multiple personalities, character like Moon Knight, and then you're dealing with, this Egyptian mythology, this MacGuffin and all that great stuff, you can get lost in this series very easily. But the way that they've sort of paced it is such that you don't get lost if you just kind of pay attention. But these are shows that you're not going to want to fall asleep on. You miss a couple minutes, you're going to want to go back and rewatch it again, because every moment means something in this. And that's what's fascinating. It kind of reminds me of an M. Night Shyamalan movie as well, because where he really kind of takes you on this journey. Every moment, every look, every sentence means something for somewhere down the road, and that's what the series does with Moon Knight. I don't know if this show is for kids necessarily. I think that this series, it reminds me a lot of the Netflix kind of series, the Netflix Marvel series, a little very adult oriented. It's not as graphic, but it is violent at times, quite more violent than I thought it was going to be, and graphic at sometimes as well. I'm going to say that if you're a parent and you have kids and you're thinking this is going to be another superhero TV series, you may want to sit and watch this with them. I would say any child younger than 10, maybe wait a little bit, but if they're like a young teenager or whatever, I think it'll be fine for them. But I just want to put things in perspective, because the way the marketing kind of comes off, in some ways, it looks like it's this guy just, dressed in white with a cape, and he's going out there fighting creatures and saving the day. And it's not that kind of series whatsoever. There's a lot more involved in this. But besides that, that's pretty much it. A lot of the issues that I had with the story development and the characters didn't make sense to me. And I was kind of documenting it as I was watching each episode, because it kind of went to the extremes. But then when you go to episode 4, it kind of explains why all that happened in some way, or at least it leads you on to going, I cannot wait to see episode 5, because there's only 2 episodes left after this. And I'm going, I don't know how they're going to wrap this whole thing up, or even if they're going to, or this will go into a season 2, or maybe we'll even see Moon Knight into a movie. I hope they do that. But this is one hell of a journey. This is a ride that you're going to enjoy, but you do need to pace yourself and do watch all the episodes. You get frustrated, do not be, just follow through with it, because once you do, you're going to be really happy. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Moon Knight. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Any questions you have without me spoiling it for you, I'll try to answer them for you in the comment section below. With that, subscribe to the channel, like this video, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube. Be safe out there, and I'll chat to you soon. Take care.